Good morning. Welcome to the worship service of the First Unitarian Church of Hobart. My name is Barb Langle, and I participate in the life of the church by being on the board of trustees, among other things. You want to? John's supposed to be here, but he's a little bit late. We are a religious community of people with diverse beliefs and shared values. Our diverse beliefs are expressed in our 6 sources, and our shared values are expressed in our 7 principles. Both can be found online at uua.org. Together, we strive to grow spiritually, build community, and live our values in the world. I just have one last reminder. Next week is chili cook-off. It looked like we had about 6 people signed up, so that looks good. I was kind of worried I was going to have to sign up, and if you tasted my chili, and I don't like losing. Anyway, so if you come to vote for the best chili in the world, it's $5 to get an empty bowl, and you take that bowl and sample all the chilies, and then you can fill it up with as much as you want. And then make sure you bring some extra change, because there'll be little cups in front of each person's chili pot, and that's how you vote. But whoever gets the most change at the end of the chili cook-off is the winner. $10s, Oh. 10s, 20s. That's it. Cindy has an announcement.
So first of all, thank you very much for letting me speak to you today. I will try to be brief. I'm from the Faith in Action Ministry, and I believe that people put their faith in action in many different ways. So we just try to give you information about possibilities. I will tell you that all that information will be in the bulletin board outside, but some of them are happening quickly, and I just want you to know about them. If you want information about anything, just let us know. There is a permaculture design course through Northwest Indiana that'll be starting in the spring. There's an opportunity to become a pen pal for incarcerated people in Illinois, and that's an opportunity. And then 3 of us, Bob and Michelle and I, are attending a movie and panel discussion called Shared Legacies this Thursday at Indiana Northwest, and it is about the African American Jewish Civil Rights Alliance. It's a very good movie and an opportunity, and Robin Rich from the Interfaith Action Network is one of the people on the panel discussion. So if you're interested in joining us, we would love to have you join us this week on Thursday. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is the last announcement, I promise you, before the February 11th Call for Care rally in Indianapolis. So, I got an email the other day from State Senator Eddie Melton, and I thought, wow, this man knows my name, because it was addressed to me, and I bet I am the only resident of Indiana that gets personalized emails from a politician. And I get so many that normally I don't read all the emails that I get. But this one was about public and mental health funding and the new budget session, and that piqued my interest. Senator Melton said that improving local mental health services and increasing access to mental health care were going to be among the top issues being discussed during this budget session. He then shocked me with this statistic when he stated that our state, Indiana, ranks 45th in the nation for per capita public health spending. That while nationally, the average per capita state spending on public health is $91 per person, Indiana spends $55. He also said that we were ranked 43rd in the nation in the prevalence of untreated mental health needs, and that it is clear that this has led to even worse overall health outcomes for Hoosiers, and that it costs our communities across the state. He said that he is committed to advocating for a budget that invests in our local public health departments and ensures that Hoosiers have access to mental health services. And that is why Democratic State Senator Melton has committed to being at the Call for Care rally next Saturday. And hot off the press, so has Republican Governor Eric Holcomb and others. Because mental health is not a partisan issue. It doesn't matter if you are a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter where you live or who you love. It doesn't matter the color of your skin or how nice a car you drive or if you even have a car. Everyone deserves someone to call, someone to come, and a place to go during a mental health crisis. We, our church, have 8 individuals willing to make the trip down to Indy on February the 11th to join over 800 people of faith and goodwill in demanding a fully funded crisis response system statewide for all Hoosiers. And I know it's a big ask to give up a day for this, and we are truly grateful to have the support of this church. We are representing all of us because this issue matters to us all. And I am so very proud to belong to a church that believes in the inherent worth and dignity of all people and is engaged in protecting and enriching the lives of our families, our friends, and our neighbors in Indiana. So thank you.
How many people have already signed up for this one?
I don't
I think there's only 15 seats left, and I
know.
believe
11 the other day.
11, even less, even less. There's only 11, and a lot of the seats on the bus are filled with people from the Methodist Church in New Orleans and First Unitarian. So thank you everyone who's already signed up, and I will be there. Thank you, Cindy.
And Cindy, thank you for bursting my bubble. I thought I was the only one that got that email. Okay, back to our service. We are currently streaming our services online. The joys and sorrows portion of our service, however, is private, and we will take a break from streaming during that portion. Other than that, the service will be recorded and will be available for future viewing on Facebook, YouTube, and the church website. Wearing masks is optional right now, but if you are ill and you think you've had contact with anyone that has had COVID or any virus, please attend virtually. Now please let your Facebook and Twitter friends know that you are attending worship with hashtag First Unitarian Hobart, and silence your devices and take a deep breath and another, and join us in the spirit of reverence.
Okay, I'm having a little trouble writing this. it goes. Thank you. Sorry about that. We gather this hour as a people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
You would please open your grade hymnals to number 465. We will read together the left side, this side of the room. The left side will read the regular text together, and the side that I am on will read the italicized text together.
I invite you to join our affirmation of faith. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So we are striving to create a worship space which is both spiritual and safe. However, we recognize not everyone can attend today in person, so we extend a special welcome to everyone who's joining us virtually today. Thank you to our tech team for making the live streaming and recording possible. And for those of us in the sanctuary, please take a moment to greet your neighbor, wave at all these beautiful faces surrounding us in this space, and let the warmth of your smile fill the space between us. Seated. So each week during our worship service, I come around when I'm leading the worship service to offer everybody the chance to share a joy or a sorrow, or a milestone that is on your heart. Throughout our time in between this 1 hour a week, the news of the world, the events of our own lives and our families and our loved ones can lift us up, weigh us down, or both at the same time. And so I invite anybody who has something that you brought into this space with you that is in your heart, you are welcome to share it. We'll come around with a microphone and hold it up for you, and would just ask that you share your name with us so that we know who you are. the silent sanctuary of our hearts, may we continue to weave this congregation together into yet more beautiful fabrics. So, our story this morning is probably familiar to at least some of you, but if you already know the story, I hope that you'll listen to it as if you don't know it. No need to come up front. You can all stay where you're seated. So, the whole congregation of the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the Israelites said to them, "If only we had died at the hand of the Eternal in the land of Egypt when we were sitting at pots of meat and eating bread till we were full. You have surely brought us out of the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with famine." And then the Eternal said to Moses, "Look, I am causing bread to rain from heaven for you. The people will go out and gather a day's worth each day because I am testing whether they will follow my instruction or not. And on the 6th day, they will prepare what they have brought in, and it will be twice as much as they gather every other day." And so Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you will know that the Eternal brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Eternal who has heard your grumbling." And now when Aaron spoke to the congregation of Israelites, they faced the wilderness, and suddenly the glory of the Eternal appeared in the cloud. And the Eternal said to Moses, "I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Say the following to them: At twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will fill up on bread, because I am the Eternal your God." And in the evening quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew all around the camp. And when the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a thin, flaky substance, as thin as frost on the ground. And when the Israelites saw this, they said to each other, and I'm going to pause the story there. Do we have the video you're able to show? So a little historical reference point for
I'm crazy about baseball. Will you stand still? Pick up your hat. Go pick up your hat. Okay. Now look. Then you'll go and petty your popcorn and don't interrupt the act anymore? Yes, sir. All right. But you know, strange may seem they give ball players nowadays very peculiar names. Funny names? Nicknames, pet names. Not as funny as my name, Sebastian Dinwiddie. Oh, yes.
Funnier than that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Now, on the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third. That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellows on the St. Louis team. I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third.
You know the fellow's names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The fellow playing first base for St. Louis.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Well, what are you asking me for?
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who is on first?
Now, you got a first baseman on first.
Certainly.
Then who's playing first?
Absolutely.
When you pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it. Why not? The man's entitled to it.
Who is?
Yes.
So who gets it?
Why should he? Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it.
Whose wife?
Yes. After all, the man earns it.
Who does?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm trying to find out what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no, what is on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Don't change the players.
I'm not changing nobody.
Take it easy.
What's the guy's name on first base?
What's the guy's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not talking about him.
How did I get on third base?
You mentioned his name.
If I mention a third baseman's name, who did I say is playing third?
No, who's playing first?
Stay off of first, will you?
What do you want me to do?
Now, what's the guy's name on third base?
What's on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third.
There I go, back on third again.
Well, I can't change their names.
Will you please stay on third base, Mr. Broadhurst?
Now, what did you want to know?
What is the fellow's name on third base?
What is the fellow's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know. Third base. You got an outfield?
Oh, sure.
St. Louis has got a good outfield?
Absolutely.
The left fielder's name?
Why?
I don't know. I just thought I'd ask you.
Well, I just thought I'd tell you.
Then tell me who's playing left field.
Who is playing first?
Say the infield.
How much are the names out here?
I want to know what's the fellow's name in left
asking you. I was on second. I'm not asking you who's on second. Who's on first? I don't know. Third base. Oh, take it easy, man.
So apologies for a little bit for the delay here, but the full bit's like 8 minutes. It holds up very well for having come out decades ago. So I wanted to pause the story there because there's this part in the story when the Israelites saw this and they say to each other, and there's this antiquated phrase that you could translate a bunch of different ways, sort of like what is it, or what do you call it, or but it's one of those. It's sort of like the classic Abbott and Costello thing because the Hebrew word is manhu, which means something like what the heck is it? That what is it thing. But it's a pun, which also comes off of the word manna. And so the people don't know it, but the answer is embedded in their question. So, what's that? Manhu? Well, that's manna. So it's back and forth in the story. And so because they didn't know what it is, there's this exchange going on. And Moses says to them, that's the bread that the Eternal has given you to eat. That is what the Eternal has commanded. Gather as much of it as each needs to eat. An omer per person. An omer is about half a gallon or so. According to the number of your people, everyone gathering for the people in their own tents. And so the Israelites did it just that way. Some gathered more, some gathered less, but when they measured with an omer, the ones with more had no surplus, and the ones with less had no shortage. And they all gathered exactly what they needed to eat. And then Moses said to them, no one should keep the leftovers till the morning. But they did not listen to Moses, and people kept some leftovers till the morning, and it bred worms, and it spoiled, and Moses was furious with them. And every morning they gathered it, each according to his need. And when the sun grew hot, it melted. But on the 6th day they gathered a double portion of bread, 2 omers for each one. And all the leaders of the congregation came to tell Moses, and he told them, this is what the Eternal has said. Tomorrow is a complete rest, a holy Sabbath for the Eternal. Bake whatever you bake, and boil whatever you boil. Set aside any leftovers you have to be kept until the morning. And so they set it aside until morning, just like Moses had commanded, and it did not spoil, and there were no worms in it. And Moses said, eat it today, because today is Sabbath for the Eternal. Today you will not find it in the field. You will gather it for 6 days, but on the 7th day, Sabbath, it will not be there. And so on the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather, and they found nothing. And the Eternal said to Moses, how long are you people going to refuse to keep my commands and my instructions? Look, the Eternal has given you on the Sabbath. That's why he's giving you 2 days' worth of bread on the 6th day. And each of you stay put. No one go out of your place on the 7th day. And so the Israelites named it manna, or who's on first. And Moses said, this is the thing the Eternal commanded. A full omer of it must be kept for your future generations, so they can see the bread that I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take 1 jar and put a full omer of manna in there, and place it before the Eternal to be kept for your future generations. And so ends our story this morning, and we have a song for folks to join in singing.
Please rise and bow your spirit for a song which is not intended for those. The song is going, so I'll sing a little bit and you will join. Words will be on the screen. It goes like this. Call down a blessing, call down a blessing, call down a blessing, call down.
Please be seated. So the first three worship series that we have done together starting last summer, kind of the theme was more going inside and contemplation, attending to your relationship with yourself and to one another. And with this new light, we're shifting more into outward motion, how we're showing up in the world, what actions we're taking. And so we started that a little bit with the last series on Unitarian Universalist identity, and we're extending it with this one, engaging with one of the most concrete ways that we meet the world around us: money. So when I was in college, I went for a couple of years after I graduated high school, and then I drifted away and did other things for a few years, and then I came back to college to finish up my undergrad degree. And I had a short list of different things that I wanted to study, and there was this one class on economics that was like, this is perfect, this is exactly what I want to study, because I'd been doing political work and I wanted some more of the theory to inform me. And it was specifically a popular economics class. So the college that I went to, the Evergreen State College, their whole format for teaching is interdisciplinary. And so you mix different disciplines to study one thing. And so we were mixing economics with popular education. And so a lot of the class was about learning how to talk about economics. And so we would practice doing workshops with one another, with the whole class. And there was this one workshop where we started talking about our own money and sharing about how much money we had growing up, what our parents had, what our grandparents had, our financial situation at the time, and people were writing stuff up on the boards, and it felt sort of scary, because it's often not something that we talk about in polite society. It's not something that we bring up in public with these random yahoos I was in a class with in college. And so there's anxiety that starts to come up. There's the possibility of fear, of jealousy, because money is so wrapped up in our senses of security, of self-worth, of how good we imagine we are, how much we deserve or should deserve or can deserve. And so, of course, it feels touchy. But for precisely that reason, it can also be a place of incredible spiritual growth. And so that's the focus of the series that we are beginning today. I just realized recently that TED Talks have been around for about 20 years now. It seems like so much more recently than that they started. But when they first came out, I was watching a number of them, and one of the classics is this one where Malcolm Gladwell talks about the innovations of this psychophysicist, Howard Moskowitz, who's most famous for reinventing spaghetti sauce. Because Prego was struggling against ragu, and Howard Moskowitz got hired by them to do a bunch of research and studies. And after doing tons and tons of research and focus groups and scientific studies, he found that there were kind of three groups of people who liked their spaghetti sauce in particular ways. There's the people who like it plain, there's the people who like it spicy, and there's the people who like it extra chunky. Anybody in here like it plain? No hands. One hand, two hands. Spicy, a little bit more. Extra chunky, bunch more hands. So at the time when he was doing this research, the idea that people would like extra chunky spaghetti sauce was completely unheard of in the spaghetti sauce industry. No one had realized that there was this yearning for extra chunky tomato sauce in the hearts of the American people. And when he came out with his research and he told Prego about it, they came out with a whole new line of things, and they made hundreds of millions of dollars. And one of the lessons taken from that experience by the food industry, is that there are so many different food desires out there. And if there are just some more options, then they can fulfill these different desires and start making more money. And that's when you started to see 285 varieties of cookies, or 75 iced teas, or 230 soups, or 175 salad dressings, or 40 kinds of toothpaste, or 10 olive oils, or 12 balsamic vinegars. But none of those numbers are in Malcolm Gladwell's talk. Those numbers are from a different talk by Barry Schwartz that came out the following year, that he got from his local grocery store. And Barry Schwartz's presentation, his TED Talk, is about how we have this common sense that choice and freedom correlate with each other. That the more choice people have, the more freedom they have. And the more freedom they have, the more choice they have. But in reality, we often end up with choice paralysis. There's so many different things to choose from. So a study was done at one point that found that employers, when they provide retirement funds to their employees, for every additional mutual fund they offer with matching funds, participation in the program goes down by 2%. This is free money from the employer. For every additional option, participation in the program goes down because we have this choice paralysis. There's all these different options. What do I choose? And so we end up with reduced satisfaction, partly from that, but also partly because it changes how we see things. Schwartz tells this story about going to buy jeans. He's worn jeans for decades, and jeans used to be a thing that you went and they were kind of uncomfortable, and after a while, you wear it a bunch and you wash it a bunch and it starts to feel more comfortable. And he goes to the clothing store to get some new jeans because his old ones have worn out. And he asks, hey, where's your jeans? And well, what kind of jeans do you want? Do you want slim fit or easy fit or relaxed fit? Do you want a button fly or a zipper fly? Do you want stone wash or acid wash, distressed, boot cut, tapered? And his response is, I want the kind that used to be the only kind. And the clerk says, I don't know what that was. I'm sorry, sir. And so he spent an hour trying them on, and he left the store with the most comfortable jeans he had ever worn, but he felt worse than when he'd had the less good jeans earlier. And so he did some research, he wrote a book, he tried to figure out why that was. How much do our plenitude of choices actually bring us satisfaction and happiness? The next time you're in line at a Target or a Kohl's or a Walmart, I invite you to just listen to the conversations that are happening around you as you're standing there. How much satisfaction and joy do you hear coming from people who are on the checkout line with their new purchases? All of the options these days vying for our attention, the streaming, the social media that are trying to get a piece of, oh, try this, try this, try this, have led to people trying to find an alternate route, turning off the options, getting off of social media, getting a dumb phone instead of a smartphone. Part of the story this morning, I shared a number of different stories and theology from Judaism this fall. We're going to do a little bit more Christianity this spring. The standard, Ched Myers, a theologian, has written, the standard of economic and social justice is woven into the warp and weft of the Christian Bible. Pull this strand and the whole fabric unravels. And at its root, Sabbath observance is about gift and limits, the grace of receiving that which is given to us, and the responsibility not to take too much, nor to mistake the gift for a possession. And faith communities, according to Cornel West, may be the last places left in our culture that can engage in the public conversation with non-market values. The very first lesson from God in the story, once they're free from slavery and they've gone into Egypt, the very first lesson is one about economics. In this new post-slavery context, everyone has enough. Those who gathered more had no surplus, and those who gathered less had no shortage. Whereas our current society has an infinite tolerance for wealth and poverty, the first building block of the society being created in this story is that there is such a thing as too much and too little. While in our current society, the intrinsic force of our economy is one that draws labor, resources, and wealth into greater and greater concentrations of power, in our story this morning, the people are called upon to keep wealth circulating through strategies of redistribution, not concentrating through strategies of accumulation. The Sabbath in this context is a practice through which a people can learn about our dependence upon the land as a gift to share equitably, not a possession to exploit. It operates on the assumption that human life and prosperity exceed human productivity. The Sabbath as a practice is a weekly reminder of two principles: the goal of enough for everyone and the prohibition of excessive accumulation. It instills an economic culture at its best of generalized reciprocity. At the time that the Hebrew Bible was written, the cycle of poverty went like this. A bad harvest year would cause a family to need to borrow in order to plant again the next year. And since there were no banks, they would need to borrow from wealthier landowners, and the interest on the debt would be too high for them to ever get out of it. And so the family would eventually have to forfeit their land to the large landowner, who would then end up with even more land. And some of the oldest parts of the Hebrew Bible were written to critique this. The prophet Isaiah from the 8th century BC railed against precisely this process in which the large landowners would add house to house and field to field until there is room for no one but you. Oppressors treat my people cruelly, he wrote. Creditors rule over them. So while there's that weekly one-day Sabbath practice to try to turn the tide in the other direction, there's also a practice of every 50 years forgiving all debts, where all land is returned to its original owners and all slaves are freed. And all of this is diametrically opposed to some prevailing economic assumptions of our day, that there's a natural condition of scarcity and that human appetites are naturally unlimited. These assumptions about scarcity and unlimited appetites breed resignation, in the words of Richard Lowry, to systems of distribution that are so unequal as to guarantee homelessness and starvation. On the other hand, they create an imperative toward unlimited economic growth. But Sabbath economics, he argues, based on the principles of abundance and self-restraint that turns that economic approach on its head. If you assume that resources are abundant, sufficient for the survival and prosperity of human life, and that human needs and wants are limited, that no one need starve or suffer the elements for the lack of housing or clothing, in that light, long-term, systemic hunger, homelessness, and poverty can be viewed only as a failure of human will. Poet and essayist and writer Wendell Berry, who wrote our opening that Carl and Stephanie led us in this morning, he wrote an essay called The Great Economy, where he talks about nature as being the great economy. As described in that reading from earlier, with rich fields and gardens and clear rivers and birdsong like canopy and green meadows and forgotten springs. And then where there's the great economy, there's also little economies that depend on the great economy for their existence. But our little economy doesn't see itself as a little economy. It sees itself as the only economy. And it only values what it can use. That is, it only what it can regard as raw material to be transformed into something else. To Wendell Berry, the industrial economy is based on invasion and pillage of the great economy. In the words of Michael Caldwell, Isaiah's critique of the powerful accumulating excess wealth in their own homes through growing indebtedness of the poor and landless portrays their actions as crushing the people and grinding the face of the poor, just as the poor themselves grind and crush the grapes daily in the manual labor of winemaking. So they themselves are being ground and crushed by exploitation. In my study of economics, one of the things that comes up sometimes is this idea of perfect information. If we all had perfect information about things that we were buying, then we could be perfect consumers and buy the right things. But how often do we have that perfect information? When you buy some toothpaste, do you know where it was made? Do you know where the ingredients that it was made out of come from? Everything's sort of in a little black box that kind of gets kept hidden. And then when there is some campaign to buy more ethically, to buy things that are much more environmentally friendly, or have a better a relationship with LGBTQ folks, then oftentimes there will be spin that gets added into it. And so we start to see things like greenwashing or pinkwashing, or the impression that we have of something. And so there's this little shell game of where is our money going? What is in that black box or green box or pink box? And so it takes some initiative to figure out what happens to the money that we invest or spend. What is it being put into? What communities is it going into or coming out of? But thankfully, trying to answer these questions doesn't have to mean starting from scratch. There are things like socially responsible investment funds. So like a lot of UU churches have invested their endowment with a common endowment fund that specifically is a socially responsible investment fund. There's shareholder activism. There's community development, financial institutions. There are opportunities to try to spin things in another direction. And so my request to you, coming out of this opening service in our new series, is to just initiate the conversation. We can get more into the depths and the nitty-gritty in future weeks. But for right now, have that uncomfortable conversation with somebody that you don't talk about money with. And talk about what is it that informs where you invest your money, if you invest it, where you spend it, if you spend it. What is it that drives your own place in how much surplus is being put in different places of our society? And I have good news for you around that. In just a few minutes, we'll be in that room over there. There'll be lots of people that you can talk to about this. That's my homework for you. You've got the whole week, but I would encourage you, while the people are here, while the resources are here, while the manna, the what is it, the who's on first is here, to dive into that, so that we may shift, so that we may nourish and sustain ourselves in ways that bring not the turmoil of our little economy, but rather the renewal of the great economy. On the steeps where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, an old forest will stand, its rich leaf fall drifting on its roots. Families will be singing in the fields. In their voices they will hear a music risen out of the ground. And they will take nothing from the ground, they will not return. Whatever the grief at parting, the abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds, will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility. May every blessing flow like a fountain, tuning our hearts to sing in harmony and praise as we learn to be ever more faithful to a way of life that leaves none behind, that the fairness of a heaven on earth may be realized. May we call down these blessings even as we meander our way through the wilderness, not yet in that land of freedom for whom our ancestors longed, but may our perseverance see us there, bearing such courage and strength and peace that can carry us through. And may it be so.
This is the time in our service for the offering. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger. We give because we believe in music and friendship, and we give with the faith that together we have enough. The money in the baskets goes to sustaining the mission of our community. The money in the cups goes to our Faith in Action ministry. A different charity is chosen every month. This month it is going to OWL, and you could look that up to find more about it in your order of service, or talk to Cindy afterwards. She knows a lot.
I just want to say that we're having a first hour on February 26th to explain what OWL is how you as a congregation can help spread the word that we are offering this to the community. We will help you with the words to say and some flyers that you can hand out or share on social media. So first hour on February 26th. Come and learn more about OWL and how you as a congregation can help us spread the word to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. For those that are not here with us today, there is an online link on the screen for both one-time and regular donations. Now, would 4 volunteers please come forward to carry the baskets and the cups?
Oh, that's right. I was in the back.
For your prayers, your presence, your service, and your gifts, we are truly grateful. Thank you.
Our closing hymn this morning is number 116, I'm on My Way, in your gray hymnals. Please rise and body your spirit. The song is definitely written from the perspective of escaping slavery, but it is a callback to the wilderness story on the way to the promised land. So one of the themes of the sermon this morning was certainly how everybody ends up getting caught in an overall cycle that hopefully we can all get free from. So please rise and body your spirit, hymn 116.
To
Closing words. The courage of the early morning's dawning and the strength of the eternal hills, and the peace of the evening's ending and the love of God be in our hearts.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.